Hey, Joe Zarzaur here again to talk about the wrongful death cases in Florida and how they work. We've discussed how it's important that the actually first step in the process is the probate court, and I wanted to talk about that a little more in detail. What actually is involved in the probate process? So, as I've told you before, I'm not a probate lawyer. We have a probate lawyer that we use for those type activities. And here's what happens, generally speaking. There's an action that has to be filed. Okay, so if there's a will, the will be filed. Okay, and then we would ask the court to carry out the wishes of the decedent, which is the person that passed away. And if the decedent had elected a personal representative, which most wills, if they have one, will have a line in there, I hereby nominate so-and-so person as my personal representative. And in his or her absence, I nominate so-and-so, right? That clause is not just legal language to dress up a will. That clause actually nominates a human being to speak and act on your behalf if you were to pass away. That personal representative nomination in a will makes it a little easier for the probate court to decide who should be the personal representative. In fact, that provides the court with a presumption of the personal representative because it's in the will. But the court still goes through its process by allowing other people who have some interest in the estate or in the as survivors from the person's estate. Survivors are a term that means you legally have a claim against the person that wrongfully killed your relative, and you can collect for that claim. That's a survivor under Florida law, and we'll talk about that later. But the probate process is one that is really meant at the beginning to set up the estate and to name a personal representative. Because let's talk about how this works legally. When you're alive, if you go to the bank and you want to do a transaction, as long as your name is on the account, you can do that transaction. When you pass away, your identity goes with, obviously, your death, and you cannot transact business at a bank or other place without having somebody there in your place that has legal authority to act on your behalf. So in order for a bank to, I'm using a bank as a for instance, but it could be a credit card company, it could be a real estate transaction, it could be anything, right? Where that person who is now deceased is having to do some business. Once the person passes away, how does that person transact business? They transact business through their estate, and the person that transacts the business has to have authority to do that. The probate court gives that authority to the personal representative. The personal representative can then go to the bank and close the account, or go to the bank and make a deposit, or go to the bank and do anything that the decedent, the person that passed away, could have done. They can contact credit card companies, they can close the affairs, financial affairs, or wrap up negotiations. That person who is the personal representative is now cloaked with the authority to act on behalf of the individual that has passed away. That includes hiring a lawyer for a personal injury wrongful death case. And that's why the probate process comes first, and that's why the probate process is so involved. Now, what is involved in the probate process? Well, like I said, there's a lawyer that we use that files the probate action. It's actually like a lawsuit that's filed in probate court. And the lawsuit asks the court, the probate judge, to set, it's not a jury, it's a judge. You ask the probate judge to nominate the personal representative or give authority to a particular person to be the personal representative and to set up the estate. And what the court's going to require is, first, they make sure there's notice given to all the survivors, like personal notice. And so everybody in the family that bears any chance of being a survivor or any interest in the estate has to be notified that there's an action. And then that person has to be notified that the personal representative is going to likely be this person. And if they have any objection, there's a hearing set where the probate judge will hear people's arguments that this person shouldn't be the personal representative for this reason or that reason, right? So even though there's a presumption that the next of kin, for instance, a surviving spouse, or if you're named in a will, is the personal representative, it's not an automatic thing. The probate judge has discretion about who can be the personal representative if there are valid challenges. Those challenges are like a felony, for instance. If a person has been nominated as the personal representative in a will, and that person has, subsequent to that will, committed a felony and been convicted of a felony, then that person is ineligible to be a personal representative of an estate in Florida. So now that person can't be the personal representative. And if there's not a backup person in the will, then the court has to basically hear arguments about who is best suited to be the personal representative at that point. Some people ask, well, can there be co-personal representatives? Can there be two personal representatives? And the answer is yes, there can be. Many times if a family can't agree on who should be the personal representative, and they want to be co-personal representatives, you can have two. It's not ideal, but you can do that in a wrongful death case. The probate process is generally very quick to name a personal representative, and it hangs out until the affairs of the decedent, all the affairs are wrapped up, including the lawsuit. So as you probably can imagine, if you have a wrongful death case and the personal representative is responsible for keeping an inventory of all the assets that the decedent had, including the asset of a lawsuit, and has to report to the court about all the assets of the estate until the estate is closed. The estate can't be closed until all the affairs of the estate are wrapped up. And if there's a wrongful death lawsuit in the estate, then that could remain open for years while the wrongful death case is pending. And during those years, the personal representative has to report to the court on a pretty regular basis about what's going on with the case and what's going on with the other assets. That's something that our probate lawyer actually helps with the personal representative with throughout the process. So if you have questions about the probate process and how it relates to a wrongful death personal injury case, you can find us on the web at zarzaurlaw.com, or you can call us at 855-HIRE-JOE. Thank you.